Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to the Stewards Room, where we'll be taking a look at racing incidents submitted by you guys and trying to make a determination on who, if anyone, was at fault. There's a link in the description to submit your own clips, and feel free to check out the playlist link for more of these videos, specifically the first, which acts as a scene setter. Also, keep an eye out for cards popping up on screen at the start of each segment where you can vote on who you thought was at fault for each incident. So I'm here with Super GT, a fellow YouTuber who's known for, I want to say, his karting videos, how well they're doing now. They're doing pretty good. But mainly GT Sport and other racing games as well that you're dabbling in with now?
Yeah, so mostly Gran Turismo these days, but still playing Forza every now and then, and moving a bit more into iRacing very soon. So a bit of a mix, and yeah, like you say, kart racing as well. So I've been very aware of your channel, and I've always been wanting to go into GTA racing, but instead of doing it, I've just been watching your channel now.
Yeah, it's got its own little nuances, I suppose. So we are going to see a GT Sport clip, which is your main wheelhouse that we're seeing now. That's going to be our first clip. If you want to vote, those of you who are watching, you can vote. A poll will pop up in the top right hand corner of the screen. Who was at fault for this? Was it really colourful car that we're riding with? Was it the white car? Or was it just a racing incident? You guys vote now. But yeah, we've got a GT Sport clip, we've got a GTA clip second as well, so that'll be my wheelhouse, and then we'll also focus on the Ricciardo incident for our final clip today. But yeah, we met up at the Crash Team Racing event that Activision put on, and we decided, why don't we're both racing YouTubers. I guess you more than me, I suppose. I'm not. I'm only just doing GTA stuff, but
still racing. Racing is racing, I suppose.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter which game.
That's true.
That's the thing about GTA I was surprised about, the fact that you can actually do proper racing. There's actually a proper community around that. So I was kind of surprised by it, but you can do proper racing on there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just pass it off GTAs. You can't really do anything with it, but yeah, we get some really good races out of it. So when you've got a group of people focused on it, it can be quite good. But let's get straight into this first clip. What are your thoughts, first of all, on this one?
Yeah, it is definitely a bit of a dive bomb, this one. Coming from a very long way back. And the thing I was thinking is that, so the more you watch it and the more slow motion you watch it, the more you think the white car turns in. But I'd ultimately say it is a bit of a dive bomb. Probably at full speed, it would look a lot worse for the overtaking car.
Yeah,
that's just turn in last second there.
I can see what you're saying. Like, the white car does turn in at the last minute. Kind of, it's slow motion. It's so much easier to think that, okay, the white car should know that he's there at that point. But if we do it full speed, he does come from a long way back. And I think it's kind of, it's this angle that he's at a little bit earlier on, when you think that the white car is going straight, kind of on the angle that he should be to then come and turn into the corner. Whereas we're just aiming so far. We're just aiming towards the apex at high speed. I think we'll go to the document. So we got the Rules of Racing document that we always do, and we'll go back to disputes over the apex and all that kind of stuff. And I think the most important part of this whole thing is the attacker. Obviously, the attacker must be at least halfway alongside the defender when they reach the apex, but the attacker should not have achieved this position by carrying too much speed to make the corner. That's obviously called dive bombing.
He actually is alongside, but he's done it too late and in too an aggressive way.
Yeah,
to
agree.
Get to that position.
He's taken too much speed into that to get to that position. And
if you sort of delete the white car and imagine where would this overtaken car end up, he would have overshot by quite a long way, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So he kind of only really met the corner there because
the white car stopped him.
Yeah.
And I also think that if the white car wasn't there, he's at such a strange angle for the corner as well. Once you get to this point, he's gonna he can make it by just going over and coming back again, but that's not the angle that he should be taking for the corner. And if you're going to make an overtake, you want to be alongside the car that you're overtaking at a bit of a better position than that rather than just aiming for an apex.
He went too far to the right. I think that's a kind of a natural reaction if you brake too late to head towards the apex early.
Yeah, absolutely.
But bit of a dive bomb. Should have perhaps waited.
Yeah,
and got it done clean into hairpin 2 or chicane 2.
So we're saying colourful car here is going to be at fault for this one. He does give, he doesn't take the advantage from it. But if we're looking at who's at fault, I think I'm going to put it down to the car that we're riding with. Not really anything the white car could have done differently in that one, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, second clip. This is my wheelhouse with GTA now. This is how the game's moved on. I don't know when you last played it, but there's some crazy tracks that get made these days. But the main point of contention in this one, I don't think, is this first bit, which was a clear takeout. It's the second part of it, because that obviously the red car gives the place back, but does he really? So you guys vote on the poll in the top right. Was the red car at fault for this one? Was it the black and purple car? Who was at fault? Or was it just a racing incident? Would you not give any penalties for anything here? Obviously not this first bit, but the second corner. Who was at fault for that one? You guys vote, and we'll see how the polls work out in the end. For me, even though we're technically looking at the second part of it, I think the first part is important to the whole thing, because the red car's obviously made a mistake there by braking too late, and he tries to give the position back, which he pulls off to the right hand side, gives the position back. But for me, he never fully gives the position back because he's still there. I don't know what you think.
I think there's a situation sometimes. It happened. I don't know if you remember it was like 2008 Formula 1 Belgian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton cut a corner.
Oh yeah, I remember.
He gave the position back, but then he just overtook him straight away.
In the next corner, so then they brought in a rule after that, didn't they? Where you have to you can't overtake on the next corner after or something.
So it's almost like if the red car wanted to give the space back, he should just back right out with it, get completely behind, and then just make it not so awkward, because he made it very awkward going through that right-hander.
Yeah.
Because he was putting his nose alongside. So it just made it a little bit of a tricky situation for the two of them. If he had just backed out maybe half a car length there, just gave him the corner completely.
Yeah, exactly.
They could have just both gone through quite quickly. And it would have been a lot better for both.
I feel like if this was just in a vacuum and this was the only incident we were looking at and nothing had happened previously, for me, I would probably be putting this, strictly speaking, to a racing incident, because he's he's got his nose in there, but not fully, and really nothing happens. Until they kind of get away with it until the red car then hits the inside barrier again and comes back over, which to me is just it's one of those things. It's kind of a racing incident. It's just what happens. It's just unlucky, but I think it's made worse by the fact that really the red car shouldn't have been there in the first place. He should have been backing out of that because of this incident. So for me, I'm putting this on the red car at fault for this one, even though it was probably a racing incident on the actual thing. Looking at it as a vacuum, he should have backed out of it completely and given the position and then tried to do it on the next corner, to be honest, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's kind of a two-parted incident, really. But I think one thing you could say though is that maybe it's always easy to look back and say you could have done this or you could have done that. But maybe the black car could have seen that the red car was there and just left a bit more space and just completely avoided the incident. Yeah. But I still don't think it's his fault, but it's just sometimes maybe that's just the best way to avoid incidents. Just
I agree.
Give people space at all costs.
And I think that's why I would probably be putting that second bit as a racing incident, just if it was on its own, because there was something that the black car could have done there to improve that as well. So, they both could have done something a little bit better. But with it, really, the red car should have, been completely out of that, waited a little bit for me. But we'll see what everyone else thought in the poll as well. See if they thought the same.
Oh, here we go. Get demonetized.
Oh no, this is it. See, I'm not allowed to play it full speed, so everything has to be.
Okay.
Everything has to be like quarter speed. If I play it full speed, it gets dinged.
Chase Carey wants to know your location.
Yeah, that's it. We can start it about there.
So this is the last lap, isn't it? Lando Norris is on the back foot.
Yep, Lando Norris is having car troubles last lap. Ricciardo... It's a shame we didn't get to see this, actually.
Yes, yeah, they cut away.
They cut away. But we have got a multiple camera angle view as well that we can look at. But I don't think you really need much more than Ricciardo's footage for this to make your decision on.
That's all you need.
But yeah, everyone, as always, there will be a poll popping up in the top right hand corner in a little bit. But I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. Should Ricciardo have gotten no penalty for this? A 5-second penalty, a 10-second penalty, or a 15 or more second penalty? Those are going to be your options this time, rather than who's at fault. So obviously we saw Ricciardo. He ran wide into the corner and pushed Norris wide, and then after that, he goes for the overtake on the legend that is Kimi Räikkönen, putting Alfa Romeo in a great spot. And goes off the track for it. So Ricciardo gets 2 penalties for that. A 5-second penalty for the first incident, and then a 5-second penalty for leaving the track there and gaining an advantage. What do you guys think? What kind of penalties would you give him for this? You guys vote in the top right, and we'll give our thoughts. So, what do you think, first of all, before we get into the meat of it?
So when I first saw this, I thought, definitely the second one on Raikkonen, 100% penalty because he was completely off the track to get the pass. This one on Lando Norris, I felt it was a penalty almost in the sense that he could only get the move done here by braking late and going off the track, which is almost in a way that in itself is cheating. Because you get past by going later on the brakes, just using the tarmac.
You wouldn't have been able to get past if you hadn't braked late enough.
You couldn't have done that. But then, the rejoin... You know what? I don't have a massive problem with that. It's kind of an awkward angle. He could have cut the corner more, maybe, just to make sure he doesn't come back on at a bad angle. But I still... He has obviously affected Norris. And by the rules, it's probably a penalty. Under the F1 rules, he's come back on, he's affected another driver, pushed them off the track, or forced them off the track.
Yeah, if he wasn't there, Norris wouldn't have had to have avoided him and go off the track.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then, I think I'm in agreement with this one, especially because he wouldn't have been able to get this overtake done if he didn't go off the track. He would. No. It was just.
So Raikkonen knows how to defend. He just pulls completely to the right.
Yeah.
And the only way he can get past is by going, and he's just beyond the line there.
And you could also say that the line and the rules are there for a reason. That Raikkonen knows how to defend, so he goes to the full width of the track to defend. If he knew that this area was going to be able to be used, he would have just moved over further. So,
exactly.
You can't just put the rules there as the white line is the defining track and then just allow someone to go on the outside of it. There is a sort of a thought process that there is a wheel width available when he makes the first move, but then it closes in again and he sort of jinks again to the right to avoid the contact. But then for me at that point, he should have just backed out at that point. There's an idea that he can avoid the contact by going more off the track. Fair enough. That's just what he's doing to try and avoid hitting Raikkonen and getting back on. But you can't then also keep your foot in and gain the advantage to get the overtake done off the track. You can't have it both ways for me.
I think it's quite clear when Raikkonen begins to move to the right, that space is not going to be available.
Yeah,
he had to move left. True. He had to move left. It kind of reminded me of that Hamilton and Rosberg incident at Spain when they crashed, where one was moving over, then
the gap was always closing.
More to the right, even though that space was never going to.
And this is exactly what would have happened if this was grass on the outside, which really it should be. I mean, it's ridiculous that there's so much space in these modern tracks, but yeah, that's what would have happened. He would have just, if there was grass there, he wouldn't have even gone to the right at that point, no. I don't think. And for me with this one, I agree that he wouldn't have got this move done if he hadn't have gone off the track, and then him coming back onto the track does force Norris to go off. And by the rules, like you say, he forced another driver off the track. What can you? He could have, there's many different options that he could have done at this point. He could have gone that way instead of, coming back on here. And also, I think one thing he could have done after all of this happens, before the whole Raikkonen incident, is just given the place back to Norris. At this point, he's forced him off the track. If he just, backs out of it a little bit and gives the place back to Norris, I don't think he's going to get any penalty for anything. Certainly the second part of it wouldn't happen either.
Yeah. I think the thing he's very wary of there, though, is that they're in a train of 4 cars. He knows that there's 2 people right behind him. He can't afford to back out too much.
Yeah, he's obviously...
So I think that's why he's
a racer.
He's
going to just keep his foot in and try and do what he can. He knows he's going to lose out. But what kind of penalty would you be giving for this? Do you think the 2 5-second penalties were reasonable?
I think it was okay. One for consistency. We've obviously seen at Canada there was that 5-second penalty. And all it did really was just demote him back behind the people that he went past, which I think is fair enough. I don't think it needs to be any more harsh than that, really.
Yeah. Didn't he ended up finishing 11th, right?
Yeah, he lost his points.
He was, because he was in... Because Wenthy's fighting for 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. So he actually got dropped behind Gasly. See, for me, I think a more reasonable penalty for this one would have been just putting him back behind Norris again. Maybe 1 5-second penalty for the whole thing. Just drops him behind Norris, and I think that would have been reasonable. I think it's a bit too much to be doing 10 seconds and 2 penalties. But, especially with the last one maybe being a reactionary thing and, in the heat of a racing battle and stuff like that, maybe it should have just been a 1 5-second penalty for the first incident, drop him back behind Norris and leave it as it is. But like you say, they are being consistent with that and following the letter of the rules. So you can't really argue with that either.
Yeah, it kind of depends when Norris finished, because he dropped behind the Renault and the Alfa, didn't he? So
yeah, Norris finished 10th in the end, or what ended up being 9th. But I think if you just put, Ricciardo 10th instead, Norris still gets his 9th. I feel like that would...
I think it is maybe a little strong, but I think just being consistent with the rules, don't cut the track, don't rejoin in a bad way, and you just hope that it's enough of a deterrent in future situations that they shouldn't do the same thing again. Yeah. But it is a problem with these tarmac runoffs. It does create these problems where people... Perez got a penalty earlier, and that's another incident, but he went off the tarmac, on the excess tarmac, got a penalty. So there's a lot of issues. It creates some very intriguing situations, all this excess runoff.
Yeah, I know. I don't think the track designs, the modern track designs, really lend themselves well to being able to allow racers to race, because, this is what happens when you allow racers to race. They can just, go off the track. And then at that point, where is the track? You got to define it somehow. But
that's why sometimes Monaco is a good Grand Prix, because you just know what the limit is, and then the drivers just change their mentality and just drive within the walls, and there's no escape. But here you kind of change your mentality. If you're in a bit of an incident, you just go, I'll just go off the track then and cut it, and I'll avoid the trouble. It creates problems. But on this occasion, I think the penalties I think they're right. I think they're okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the being penalised for what we saw was correct. I'm not necessarily sure that giving him the full beans 10 seconds and lose his points completely, but then I do see the argument the other way as well, of having a deterrent and just following the letter of the law. So it's consistent. It's more consistent at least now than what it has been in the past. Whether it's the correct way to have the rules, it's open for discussion, but they are being consistent, and I think you can't really argue too much with the penalties that they give for this.
I think Formula One has had a problem with consistency over the years, where they haven't been given penalties in a consistent way. So at least they're improving on that.
Yeah.
And then you can make the argument that we don't like that rule, we don't like that rule, which is a bit different.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as they're consistent with what the rules actually are, then I think that's a good thing.
I agree. All right, well, there you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll have to see what the poll results were. And if Super GT, check him out if you haven't already. I'm sure a lot of you might already know him, but I'll leave his information down below in the description. Thank you for coming on as well.
Thanks very much for the invitation. Actually, we'll have to do more of these because I love analysing little incidents. I love trying to see what.
Yeah, it's good fun.
At fault or who could have done something differently. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely do some more. So that's pretty much it for this episode. You can find in the video description all the info and links that you may need to submit your own clips. And if you'd like to support me, you can do so on Patreon by becoming a YouTube member or simply subscribing and liking the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.